What's up, YouTube? Welcome, everyone, to the Sunday Weekly Lawn and Garden Show. It is November the 4th. Got a little squirrely with my date there. November the 4th. Man, the season is winding down, y'all. What do we do about that? I don't know. But the good news is that we still got a little bit of growing time, especially for those of us down in the South, where things are really starting to heat up and the race to the final finish is coming on. Coming on strong, baby. Got to go get it. Hashtag Paul's Prime Cuts Permagreen 2019. That's what I'm talking about, even though that was a Lesco he had in his video. By the way, Paul, holler at me about a Permagreen. Got 2 Permagreens that are going to be coming up for sale. So if you're in there and you're interested in that, I believe Paul has requested one. So just going to throw that tidbit out there. What's up? Man, I'm watching everybody over here in the chat and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So anyway, we're going to have a great show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that's going on cool season-wise, because that's winding down. We're going to talk a little bit about everything that's going on warm season-wise. That's winding down. Guys down in Florida are just getting their color back. So, woo! We are getting somewhere with it. Real quick, little housekeeping. A couple of things. If you haven't seen it, if you do not know, if you're not aware, I don't know where you've been, but there are things happening out in the world. Number one, called Carbon X. If you're not familiar with it, take a look at that link in the chat. Carbon X is a nutrient release technology fertilizer developed by Matt Martin, John Borden, John Perry, David Borden. We put together this fertilizer. It's going to be a lot of fun. What's coming up in the coming years, pretty exciting. So if you don't know about it, check into it. Learn a little bit about it. It might be something you would be interested in. Also, as people are starting to roll in, I will tell everyone, if you are a homeowner and you are looking for Carbon X, it will be available to you. It'll be available to you through your 2 online retailers known as the Lawn Care Nut and GCI Turf. Both of those will be carrying Carbon X in their online stores. So, little housekeeping, got a little under the way there. So, let's jump on over into the chat and see what's going on. It's roll call. I jumped in there a little early with everybody. Big Connor Ward is recovering after his day down in Dallas doing top golf. That's what I'm talking about. Real Low Dad and Eric Vaughn Waddell. Real Low Dad is he's on a mission and he has got projects going on galore. You know, it is just on fire over on his section of Knoxville. That's what I'm talking about. Mr. Waddell, how are you, good sir? Ridge Runner. How are you? For those of you who don't know, Ridge Runner is an attorney. He acts like an attorney. He talks like an attorney. He studies like an attorney. He's an incredibly smart man. And if you want to read some good back and forth banter, I suggest you hop on over to the Lawn Forum and check out the conversations Ridge Runner and I have. Ridge Runner is a soil scientist. I'm going to say it publicly and on air. He's a soil scientist. And over at the Lawn Forum, he does some pretty amazing technical analyses and some fact sharing with cited sources about soils. Pretty interesting cat over there. Hey, Ridge Runner, glad you're here, buddy. All right, who else we got? The Greener Lawn Brew probably wasn't going to be able to tune in, but he got to say, hey, C.D. Andrews, hey, yo. What's up, man? We got Ryan Knorr in the chat. Oh, that's not Ryan Knorr. That's Gravy Lookout, his doppelganger. What's up, Gravy? John Pinkerton of That One Cupcake Place in Hiawatha, Iowa. Way on up there up north. Chandler Hall, how are you, good sir? Mr. Fouché, how are you? How's Louisville hanging in there? Chris Voix of your property image, not mine, your property image. Chris Tall Fescue Junkie, what's up, man? Michael Wassenauer is now the Tall Fescue Junkie. That's what I'm talking about. Cat Bird Feeder, how are you doing, ma'am? I'm glad you're here. Terry Finch, old South Carolina boy, can't be mad at you. How are you, Terry? Gary Evans, what's up, man? Turf Nerd, David Watkins. David Watkins. So many Teds today. You aren't even kidding, brother. Lambert, how are you? T. Winnings, waiting for summer. That's what I'm talking about. Michael Lane, how are you? Barry Kavanaugh. Shane Brady. Best thing about Sundays, well, besides football, putting down a pallet of 33.00, finishing up 55 left or so. Then time for a break. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Shane Poole from Memphis, Tennessee is tuning in. Well, over on the 901 side of things. I've been over there once or twice for about 20 years. Oh, the Hammer. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Velvet Hammer. Love watching him do what he does. Ben Hinton, how are you, good sir? Dogtooth, welcome to the live show. Say hey to Jay Wyrick over in North Carolina, everybody. He's a good man. Jay Rich, Kurt Kill. Man, look at all these names. Steve Wright, what's up, man? Alan Smith from Austin, Tejas. Love me some. Everyone at Catch One says, hey, that is awesome, Steve Willie. How are you, good sir? Austin, Texas, where I've always wanted to go. My wife and kids have accused me of catching OCLD, obsessive compulsive lawn disorder. That's right, Gary Evans. That's a good one to have. Papa and Nana's Lawn Care, looking at doing Carbon X, Carbon OM that can help build the base before we get soil test back. Is this a good thought process or idea? Carbon X7, Carbon OM. Papa and Nana's Lawn Care, what are you talking about? I'm a little confused by it. But I will say, if you're looking to incorporate carbon into the soil prior to getting a soil test back, is that a good thought? Sure, absolutely. That's always a great starting point. I was watching a TED Talk earlier about humus. I know John Perry likes to talk a whole lot about humus. Little caveat here. I'm learning soils as we go. I know herbicides and herbicide technologies better than I know soils. So the whole soil experience for me has been a learning one. And it's something I navigate day by day. It's something I'm continuously learning about. Every day I read an article that shifts my thinking just a hair. But one of the interesting things I was reading about humus, or listening to this TED Talk about humus, was what if we applied a carbon source with our nitrogen applications, with every nitrogen application? So much of our leaching and runoff that we face would be eliminated. So in that regard, anything you could do to build soil carbon absolutely is a great thing, regardless of your soil test. Oh, yeah. Jeremy W., how are you, good sir? Sun 420 is here. Super top. What's up, man? Paul's Prime Cut. He is in the shows. Oh, Miguel DeCalo. Hey, Matt, can you talk sometime about storing granular herbicide, if there is anything? Yugal, I will tell you this. When you're storing granular herbicide, you definitely want to keep it in a vented area. Make sure there's a little bit of airflow, because the fumes can hold it into and I read down to Chris Voigt's comment, and I can't help but laugh. But yeah, just make sure it stays in a somewhat vented area, and it will keep for a while. Will degradation take place over time? Yes. How much? I don't know, but it will happen. That doesn't mean you should use more. What that does mean, though, is that you should use it over a given period of time. I would say 2 years is about as long as you want to go. So there you go. Use your new product for round 2 to get base before soil test results back. Papa and Nana, it's not a bad thing. And I will tell you why, is that because with Carbon X, we've kind of got everything in the kitchen sink. So when you're going out to a yard, whether it has deficiencies or not, you're giving it a little bit of everything. So it may not be a pure corrective app. So if you're extremely low in magnesium, you're not going to apply Carbon X and get enough magnesium to correct your soil levels. But what you are going to do is get enough of a nutrient load in order to keep that lawn green for an extended period of time. So there we go. Chris Voigt, does Carbon X need to be watered in if it's loaded with prodiamine? All nutrients need to be watered in. Any of your minerals need to be watered in. They are soluble. Most of them are soluble in water. And once they go into solution and move through the soil profile, they can then be taken up by the roots. In the event of something like prodiamine, which is an herbicide, pre-emergent herbicide, when it is watered, what happens is that it goes into solution and then works its way into the soil, and it creates that vapor barrier. If you do not water it in, what happens is that you'll get a cluster of prodiamine and then a cluster of prodiamine where it is on the prill. And then you don't have great coverage. But if it is watered in, it can move and give you the coverage that you're looking for. Pete with GCI Turf Services is here. What's up, Pete? Real quick, one more housekeeping thing I'm thinking of. What I'm looking at doing is 8 o'clock, maybe 8:30 on Tuesday night, is having a group live show with a group of applicators. And these are going to be people that primarily deal with fescue in the transition zone. Pete, I'm going to shoot you a text on this. And basically, I'll share a little bit about what's happening. What has happened is that, you had 2 hurricanes move through. It was still 90 degrees after the hurricane, 90 degrees all the way into October. A pretty good ways into October, it was still 90 degrees. And so seed and seed establishment did not have its best year this fall from purely a environmental standpoint. If everything lawn care related is to happen extremely perfectly, nature has to be on your side. Any kind of deviation from perfect nature performance ultimately impacts the performance of your lawn. So because of the bizarre kind of fall that we had this year, anyway, we're going to do a group video and talk about these different types of things and what it means for the business, what it means for competition, so on and so forth. So it'll be a pretty neat little hive mind of brains and real life business owners talking about what this fall looked like for them. Oh man, what's up, Nicholas Jasmine? Hey, Russell Skipper's in the house. Hey, last week Paul mentioned using SOP on warm season grasses. Any source recommendations such as K25? I'm not particularly familiar with K25. There's a couple of brands of SOP that are out there. I don't know the brands. Usually when I'm getting just straight SOP, I go to the co-op and ask them to put it together for me. So I don't buy really any brands. I get it straight from the co-op and just have them bag it in 50-pound bags and I'll run with it. So K25 is one. There is another one that I know I have used that was super, super fine, almost powder-like. I cannot remember off the top of my head, Barry. I may think of it by the end of the show. I don't know. How many YouTube live lawn show episodes have you done so far? Tully Coleman, I have no idea, sir. No idea. Go Dogs, Jeremy says. When is this license for snipe hunting is prohibitively costly? You got it, Reg. You got it. Biosolids, chicken poop versus human poop. Any preference? Not necessarily. So chicken poop isn't as high analysis as human poop is. And typically there's a little bit greater mineral content in chicken poo than human poo. Most of the studies where chicken poo was just out of control, high performing, dealt with crop, and that was mainly with cotton. Chicken poop had some unbelievable corrective action on cotton. I cannot recall the entirety of the study off the top of my head, but I did read that study. So that is why I prefer to use chicken versus human poop. I kill fescue in the transition zone. Okay, I will. I'll let you know, Pete. Good. Hey, Gary, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. John Mernick, what do you think about the Jerry Baker lawn episodes? I mean, this is what I love about Jerry Baker. I love Jerry Baker. Jerry Baker is not a turfgrass guy. He's not you're never going to see a whole lot of what Jerry Baker puts out that is going to make someone like Connor Ward's lawn look any better than it currently does. He takes real simple ideas and then applies them to ingredients you have around the house. Like some of the things like utilizing ammonia and stuff, yeah, you could put ammonia on your lawn in low rates, but you have to think as that dries, it gases really quickly, so you're not really getting a whole lot of nutrient load there. But he's not definitely. Jerry Baker knows exactly what he's talking about, and everything he does is pretty much rooted in science. It's just the rates there are not what you would normally think of. So it's okay. It proves a theory. He operates on theories just scaled down to what you have lying around the house kind of level. How about that? That's really what I'm going to dive into. I like Jerry Baker. I think he's entertaining. With work, travel, and weather, I didn't even try to put down seed this year. Oh yeah, I did some patches. I hear you, man. I hear you. This fall was better than last fall for me. It was vice versa, Paul. We had perfect rain once a week last year, and it was nice heavy rates then, and it was good stuff. Matt, can you talk about the amounts of RGS in Carbon X? Is it comparable to putting down 3 ounces per 1K if we're using the recommended rate of Carbon X? Yes, Josh, I can tell you exactly about this. So the way we formulated Carbon X is that we infuse 3 ounces of Carbon X in every 120 pounds of fertilizer. So at 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet, you get 3 ounces. Wait, am I doing this right? No. We put 1 gallon in 120 pounds. So the rate will match up. So it's 3 pounds of Carbon X will have 3 ounces of RGS in it, if that makes sense. So we wanted to make it whereas when you apply Carbon X, so again, we're dealing mainly with the professional applicator, right? So when they're applying a granular fertilizer, it's a double up. So it allows them to be able to put down 2 products at a known usable rate in one application. So 3 pounds of Carbon X, 3 ounces of RGS. J-Rich, K-Mag, Supple Mag, sulfate of potash of magnesia. The brand of SOP I have used. K-Mag is not specifically SOP though. It is a sulfate of potash, but it's magnesium rich. It is not a true SOP. Keep that in mind. Any thoughts where to get some from? Hoosier Blue. I do not, sir. Do not. Today was the first day with sun all day in a month. Wow, man, that's tough. Michael Sims, welcome aboard, sir. He's coming in. GCI Turf Seed is getting it. When would you apply RGS and what other products should I mix with it? Keep it. Hey, Paul Manicone, I tell you what I would apply is I would apply RGS now, and I would also apply 2100 ammonium sulfate. So that's exactly what I would run. I'm going to kick the can. Matt, come on. It's really not poop. You know this. That's right. It's really not poop. So, again, back to that whole chicken poop versus human poop. It's not actually human poop. It's the microbes that have digested all the human poop that are then prilled into, your sludge, your sewage sludge. So you all know the lawn care community finished up with 266 shirts sold and $7,235. How about that? That is what we did for Rodney Smith. That is amazing. John Pinkerton, no, it is not. That is a screw in the wall, sir. You put human poop down in the lawn while reading the paper, never start. All right, what is the rate for ammonium sulfate? Ammonium sulfate is 2100, 21% nitrogen. So you would apply it depending on your rate of nitrogen you want to get down. So if you want to put down a 1/2 pound of nitrogen, you put down 2.5 pounds per 1,000. If you want to put down 3/4 of a pound of nitrogen, yeah, you add 25%. You want to put down a full pound, you put it down at 5 pounds per thousand. There you go. And you add a link to the TED Humus Talk below this YouTube. I probably can Ridge Runner. I will, yeah, here it is. I will warn everyone, this is a little frou-frou. This is a little over-the-top frou-frou, outside of my area of comfort frou-frou. So take everything that's said in this with a little bit of a grain of salt. It talks a lot about, the benefits of organic farming, but organic farming has a much higher carbon footprint than inorganic farming. I'll just go ahead and throw that out there. If you ever want to compare MSDSs, compare an MSDS and toxicity profile of something like copper sulfate versus something like glyphosate. Pretty deep there. Is there any way to combat fungus this late in the season? Nicholas, what fungus are you dealing with? That specifically brown patch. Where are you located that you're dealing with brown patch? Isn't it 3 pounds of RGS to a bag? Ridge Runner, I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. Alan Smith, so yeah, approximately 1 ounce per pound. Yeah, I guess that is about how that comes out to. Late to the roll call. Was ammonium sulfate your idea in Carbon X? I know you love this type of N. Will atrazine stun Dallas and Blue Stem? I think it's called Blue Stem or King something. King Ranch Blue Stem. Was ammonium sulfate your idea in Carbon X? Yeah, kind of. All the ingredients just kind of fell into place. We knew we wanted to use ammonium sulfate in it. Yes. Initially, the first thing we tried to prill was urea, and that was a disaster. So we had to make some shifts, some changes in there. And I think actually John Perry was the one who was when it was spitting out these big globs on the other end. John Perry was like, switch that right there to ammonium sulfate, and never looked back. Hey Matt, about a week ago, Connor shook my hand, and now it's red and swollen, and I have the urge to should I go see a doctor? Yes, Brett. Yes, you should. I have hard clay soil during the summer. Tall fescue gets scorched. All right, Aaron. This was one of those things we were talking about this in the chat actually last night. One thing I would consider doing if you have really hard clay soil in the summer, tall fescue gets scorched. Probably what's happening is the soil is becoming hydrophobic. It's resisting the absorption of water. One thing you may want to consider doing is using a product like Hydrotane when you aerate. Anything you can do to get moisture to retain in that soil. So this may be another good example for you to use a product like Air 8, something that's going to move through that soil profile really quickly. Apply something like Air 8, mechanically aerate, and apply something like Hydrotane. That would be a good remediation towards a soil that has become hydrophobic. In the golf world, we used to use soil penetrants like Duplex, very aggressive wetting agents that move through really quickly. A lot of times we would have to do that for fairy ring, because sometimes in fairy ring, you'll get a ring of hydrophobic soil. And that was exactly what we do. We would try and get a really aggressive pH shift really quickly, aerate the fire out of that hydrophobic area, and use something like a wetting agent to get moisture to move back into it. Invent thought about changing my handle to the great weed cultivator. What kills henbit without killing young fescue? What about Scott Starter and mesotrione? Too little, too late. Gary Evans, if you've got young fescue, actually your 3-way herbicides or triclopyr, as long as it's cool outside, your fescue is going to be very tolerant of it. If you've got your fescue to the point where you can mow it, you can safely apply a broadleaf herbicide to eliminate your henbit. A new seed came up, waited almost 2 weeks, and boom, exploding grass everywhere. Kind of late, I know. What came up with it, John B? What came up with it? Have you ever seen, oh, here we go. Bird Dog, I didn't finish your question. Okay, will atrazine stunt Dallas grass and blue stem? It probably will if it's green and actively growing. If it's not, then it's not going to stunt it. So if you're maybe if you have centipede or St. Augustine where you can apply atrazine when something like Dallas grass or blue stem is actively growing, yeah, it will stun it. But if you're trying to catch it like in a near dormant state or coming out of dormancy, then it's going to be really difficult. Probably not. Telecombing, yes, I have. I've seen the Endurant turf paint applied and look really well. There is a golf course in the area here called Dead Horse, and they paint their fairways with Endurant. They use a JD9 gun that's mainly used for spraying trees and shrubs and soak down the fairways. It's extremely expensive on a large scale. On a home scale, shouldn't be too bad. Maybe a few $100 in material to get it done. Bought sulfate of potash locally at Howard's Fertilizer earlier this spring. Yep, you should be able to do that. What's the max rate of N I can put down in the spring to get my centipede to really fill in? Terry Finch, I would not exceed more than a pound of N. I will, and I'll tell you just like this, Terry. You can apply as much nitrogen as you want to your centipede, and it will grow like there's no problem. It will go dormant, and it will not come out of dormancy. Ask me how I know. I know because I've done it before. John Harris here. How are you, good sir? So, I wouldn't exceed. Definitely not more than 2 pounds, maybe a pound and a half, maybe a pound. If you're trying to push something like centipede, focus on your K. Make sure you're using a not so salty K source like SOP, and then your minors, and that's really going to be about the best thing you can do. Improve your soil conditions. The less resistance that root system meets attempting to push into the soil surface, the better off your centipede will be. So keep that in mind. If you're growing centipede on clay, you've got to do something to mitigate the effects of clay. Centipede and clay do not mix well. I ran into it at Georgia nonstop. It was brutal. But you could cross the state line into South Carolina, and centipede immediately did better because there was a sandier soil profile. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Bermuda folks, be watching out for the dreaded zebra fungus. I get tons of calls through the course of the year about this time of year when they had the first frost and you start to see that tiger striping effect, I call it, and everybody's having a hand. They want to know, why is this happening to my lawn? Well, I'll tell you why. Because of the frost. It frosts in an uneven, kind of patchy looking pattern. And so you see that damage when, after a couple weeks after your frost there. You're welcome, Ridge Runner. I need to use the app for when I'm replying to someone here so you can skip my post. I will continue to read it anyway, Ridge Runner. You don't have to worry about that. All right. Some friends of mine just moved into a new house in the Austin area. They just sodded their backyard with zoysia. Anything I could tell them to help them out this close to winter? Alan, sure. Yeah, if it's newly sodded zoysia grass, assuming you haven't soil tested anything, a good, decent, moderate potash app going into winter on something like zoysia would be fine. That's really about the only thing you need to tell them. It's newly sodded. They don't need to worry about the weeds with it. It may get a little weedy. Probably not, because it's zoysia grass. Don't sweat it. Save it all for next spring. Next spring is when the real fun is going to happen with your neighbors and their zoysia grass. Peter, you going to sell carbon extras? Ken Titus, shoot yeah he is. Shoot yeah he is. Hey, man, looking towards next year, I'm wanting to have a good preventative fungicide and grub program. What's the best way to go about it? Just basing off this year, the only problems I had was fungal. Okay. So, you've got to look at your different options for fungicides, and you got to put them on some sort of rotational management plan. A lot of times, if you're dealing with disease in Bermuda grass, it's probably going to be in this area, partially nutrient related. if I had to guess, you probably need to up your K rates. Just knowing what I know of this area, and especially you're in a new subdivision there, John. So I wouldn't go out hardcore with the preventative fungicide. You've had another year of growing under your belt. You know, you got a full season on your TIF Grand. You're probably not going to see the same stresses on your lawn this coming year that you saw this year. So I can write you out a preventative fungicide and grub program. However, you probably don't need to do anything with it. Just going to go ahead and throw that out there. We could talk more about it privately because I know your lawn a little better than other people's. Can I spray this hydrotain at any time or specific time? Aaron Watkins, yeah, you can. However, you have to make sure it stays wet. Once the soil completely dries out, the hydrotain is no longer effective. So, yes, whenever you're typically when I would recommend doing it is do it in a period of time when you're in a rainy season. Go ahead, get your hydrotain down, get it worked in. And then when you hit your dry period, just make sure you're watering that area good to keep it moist. And then once your roots grow over it and into it and establish into it, it will begin to correct a lot of those issues on its own. Roots are going to be much better at improving soil than any sort of chemical or amendment will. Going to try and just use ammonium sulfate next season and sulfate of potash for potassium. How much sulfate of potash should I apply through the season for dwarf fescue? T-Dog, it all depends on your soil test. Typically, if you're just using what the plant is going to use, you won't need to apply a whole lot. You may only need a ½ pound through the course of the year of sulfate of potash. So it's more so about timing. Where I would typically time that would be like May. So your pre-stress period. So maybe like in April and then in May. And then if you want to apply one more time coming out of your stress period, so like August, September, and then you should be good. But typically I load it just April and May and then let it go the rest of the season without it. Because what happens is that you get this bell curve of uptake from potassium. So as your nitrogen uptake increases, so does your potassium uptake increase. And then you hit the hot part of the summer, your growth retards, so does your K consumption. And then you get another little spike, but you've got decreased sunlight, so it doesn't quite spike as aggressively in the fall, and then it kind of tailors out. So I load up real heavy pre-stress season and then let it ride the rest of the year. Want to go straight Carbon X and Green County fertilizer products next year. Would you be able to provide a simple application schedule? Yes, Thomas. If you tell me where you are, there have been some little programs posted already over on the Lawn Forum. If you're not a member of the Lawn Forum, I recommend you joining. And so, basically like one thing John and I were looking at was like a CX round 2, and then like a green effect air 8, and then a green effect and microgreen or green effect and RGS. And then we'll say like another CX and then like 2100 and RGS, something like that. That's assuming for cool season turf. I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know if you have Bermuda or fescue or what. I'm just throwing that out there, assuming you have cool season turf. Aerate all day long on clay by Lake Murray. Woo! One amp of RGS and aerate, and I could sink a 6-inch screwdriver to the handle with little resistance. Man, that is what I'm talking about. From what I could see, well, I appreciate that, Bird Dog. We tried to put a little bit of everything in it. At what temps is the non-ester-based 2,4-D effective? Eli, it will continue to be effective until your nighttime temperatures are hovering around that 30 degrees. Then you'll see a much slower response from it. Noticing small amounts of rust and brown patch in lawn in St. Louis. It's been pretty cool here, but since we're right around the corner from winter, should I worry about applying any fungicide? No, the Lawn Guardian, if you're not going to see brown patch in St. Louis right now. It is simply too cold. You'll see brown patch when it's 85 during the day and 65 at night. That is the start of brown patch season. So if you're seeing some sort of patch disease, probably what it could be would be like yellow patch, which is more of a cool season type of rhizoctonia, or it could be leaf spot melting out, helminthosporium, one of that family of disease, and that can be a little bit patchy, but you're not going to see true brown patch right now. It's just way too cold. With the rust, usually an app of nitrogen will help grow that out and push it out. Now, if you're still going to be remaining in a humid and cool environment, chances are it may come back a little bit, but highly doubtful that it would be detrimental. Oh, and what should I do with all this Yara Mila 21-7-14 fertilizer that has the not so great ammonium nitrate in it? I mean, there's nothing wrong with ammonium nitrate. It's just you can't control the release of it very well. It happens really quickly, and it's a nitrate, and it will begin to thin it the more often you use it. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you what to do with it. I don't know where you got it to begin with. Ammonium nitrate is hard to find. My lawn stays green all year long, even. Oh man, I could only imagine where this is going with Gravy. Look at I jumped to the bottom, Gravy. Hang on. Even when it's covered in snow, I think it's because the chlorophyll is preserved in sub-zero temps. Does that make sense? If I had to guess, Gravy, it is because of your grass type. Fine fescue. Fine fescue is going to turn almost like a grayish blue color through periods of damage or stress like that. So I had to guess it's your grass type. But I really don't know. Man. Looking to applying some elemental sulfur next spring, fall to lower soil pH and sandy soil. Probably going to have to order it online. Do you have any brand recommendations, or is it all the same? Dogtooth, I do not. I do not know of any brands of elemental sulfur. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there, buddy. I would guess that it is all pretty much the same. Yeah, that's really all I got about it. What is when better to get a soil test and how lawn looks if pH is high? Mr. Dogan, the lawn will become chlorotic if the pH is high. And the reason being is that certain metals are going to become unavailable, insoluble to the plant. So if you're dealing with a high pH, it's better to start with it in the fall or in the spring with something like elemental sulfur to drop your pH. And what you'll notice is that iron in particular will become plant available again, and you'll get a lot of corrective green up from your lawn. Oh boy, Paul's Prime Cuts got it going on over there. Take the lawn kids here. What is going on? Look at this, in-cap sulfur. There you go. In-cap is pretty interesting because Ridge Runner we were kind of yanking each other's chain back and forth over a fast-acting lime. In-cap is the one who has the patent on fast-acting lime, and we were trying to dissect what made it fast-acting. So they also have a sulfur product too, I see. That's pretty interesting. St. Augustine in Houston. You said not to fertilize late in fall, winter, or on warm season grasses due to spring dead spot. Is that just Bermuda? If so, how late can I fertilize safely? Jess, if you go dormant, which in Houston, I'm pretty sure you do not want to fertilize after, say, September. You can get down, apply something balanced in September, pretty low rate. St. Augustine doesn't need a lot of nitrogen anyway. So you could apply something like a 1/4 pound of N in September, and that will be enough to get you through the remainder of the season. You may not get spring dead spot, but with St. Augustine in particular, in the cooler weather, you have more aggressive outbreaks of Rhizoctonia solani, brown patch. So avoiding heavy fall fertilization will help mitigate the potential and severity of your brown patch development in the fall. Up in the Northeast, Does soil pH drop slowly over time? And if so, how fast? Does sandy soil lose pH faster than other types? VW, does soil pH drop slowly over time? I have no idea, man. Chances are probably not. No. And if I had to guess, it would probably stay relatively stable over time and not have a whole lot of fluctuation, as long as climate is relatively constant too. And the reason being is that so much of your pH is going to be a byproduct of what is going on underneath your soil. So if you've got, limestone base, you may be dealing with ultra high pH. Does sandy soil lose pH faster than other types? I guess you're talking about, does it acidify faster than other types? It can. Yes. I can't remember. VW, I can't recall, and I don't want to say something wrong, but I talk a little bit about pH adjustment in the ammonium sulfate video and how it happens on sand versus clay. I'm drawing a blank right now over which one is which. I recommend you check out that video, and you'll be able to see which one it happens faster on. So there you go. There you go. Take the log kit in the shows. Willie Lombos, hey man, I can't wait to put my order for Carbonex. I've been applying Milorganite as per the bag. When is a good time to inject Carbonex during the year with Milorganite? Willie Lombos, I don't know what turf type you're applying to. So here's the thing, Carbonex is not a set it and forget it type fertilizer program. You're going to have to be more involved in what is actually going on in the growth of the plant. So assuming you're dealing with cool season grass, typically you'll want to load the Carbonex early in the year and then late in the year. And if you need something through the summer wise, stick to your liquids when foliar uptake can take place. You can make major changes during the summer when there's not a whole lot of growth. You're not getting just a ton of pull up from the roots because you're trying to preserve moisture, of course. So it's not going to look like your Milorganite program. So what it may look like if you're dealing with cool season grass would be like March, May, August, October, something like that. Matt, will the Carbonex have several different NPK, spring, fall, winter, summer? Yes, eventually there will be. I don't want to get a whole lot into that right now because we're still putting together a lot of our formulations. But yes, there will be multiple analyses. Oh, Steve, here we go. UT's football field looked great this year. Have you ever walked on it and been able to ask groundskeepers questions? Yes, Steve. So they do the GSCAA tour there every year, and you can ask Darren or whoever all the questions you want about it. There's some really funny stories about when Butch Jones was there that he wanted to resod the entire field. Well, from the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, he wanted to resod every year, and it would just break everyone's hearts. And Darren said that they cried because they had roots this deep on that grass, and he wanted it all cut out. So I don't know if I'm supposed to share that or not, but I just did. Here in Pittsburgh, I core aerated a month ago and put ringer down. I want to put a synthetic winter guard down tomorrow. Too much in? Probably not, party girl. I don't know what a synthetic winter guard is, but the only thing you need to be applying, catbird feeder, I don't think so. Thank you. The only thing you need to be applying is nitrogen. So if your winter guard has anything in it other than nitrogen, don't do it. GG turf, no. So what we actually are doing with the potassium chloride is that we're having to run half potassium chloride and half sulfate of potash. We're trying to keep the pH as close to neutral as possible. And what we're actually able to do with potassium chloride is bring the pH up a little bit, because we're trying to keep it around a 6.5, but with all the ammonium sulfate in it, it drops it. And the way we process our biochar isn't as normally high pH as you see. Plus, also with the way commodities, the way they are right now, it helps us save a little bit in cost. So we're doing 50-50 potassium chloride and sulfate of potash. Does the Lawn Forum have an app? No, it does not. Just a website. I have an issue with seashore paspalum variety here in Hawaii. The root's not growing past 1.5 to 2 inches deep. I've aerated several times and laid a good foundation of humic and nutrients. It seems the soil may have become anaerobic. These would be sand-based pop-up greens. Woo! Man, I wish Ray was here. 3 lines only. I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to contact the Green Doctor of Hawaii. Green Doc of Hawaii. The Green Doctor of Hawaii. He is the man. If I had to guess what you're dealing with, roots not growing past 1.5 to 2 inches deep, is that you probably have a layer of salty soil that's keeping things from pushing through. It could be sodium, it could be something else, and it's hitting that layer and not wanting to move through it. But that is just a complete and total guess. I don't know. It could be 10 to 15 different things that are going on there. It's going to be, well, if it's seashore paspalum, the salt probably wouldn't be an issue. I do not know 3 lines, but I'll tell you who would know, and that is Ray Ito. Ray Ito, the Green Doctor of Hawaii. He's the man. Let's see here. Tiger Soul is a brand I've seen around for elemental sulfur. There you go. There you go. Are all of the strobilurins similar for brown patch control? Yes. They're not all equal, but they're all similar. They all work decently well on brown patch. One thing you have to keep in mind, Lambert, is that if you're using the strobilurin, just because you change the brand name doesn't mean you're changing the mode of action. Don't forget that. Thank you, bird feeder. Thank you. Last app event for winter. What should I use? Michigan area. 2100 ammonium sulfate. I have started noticing in the last month my dwarf fescue thinning out this fall when I rake it. I attribute that to the use of ammonium nitrate I've used a few times this year. That could be it, sir. That could be it. Whoa. Any tips for getting rid of a big Frankenstein-looking patch of Bermuda from a St. Augustine lawn? Looks like somebody got carried away with Bermuda seed trying to patch a bare spot. Printing, so don't want to. Really, the only thing you can do, and that would be something like an application of atrazine in combination with Prograss at the fumicate. But that's really about it. I don't really have a whole lot of options there. Southern Indiana, at what point would you recommend Pilex versus burning it down, glyphosate, to control Bermuda in turf type tall fescue? Brett, it is purely whatever you deem it to be. I can't answer that question for you. Is the lawn half and half? Is it 20-80? Is it 80-20? You have to make that determination. And I'll tell you how to make that determination is have the conversation with the customer. So if you want to start by nuking it and then regrowing it in with turf type tall fescue and then maintaining any regeneration of Bermuda with Pilex, you could do it that way. But it's something you need to have that conversation with your customer. Come to that conclusion together, and then both of you will be much happier in the long run. Have you ever read the works of Albrecht on soil? Guy was ahead of his time. James Beard was a good one too. Listen to you guys talk about soil reminds me of these guys. No, I know both of the names, but I haven't read any of their books, but I'm sure eventually I will get there. Do you have an address where I could send you some of my dirt? You could put it in your trophy case at work or rub it on your face. Gravy, yes, I will give you an address where you can send me some of your dirt. In fact, I will do that right here in the chat. And this is actually a real address. where you can send it. I have the opposite. It looks like some tried to make some St. Augustine and mostly Bermuda yard. But now that I think about it, that area is mostly shaded halfway through the day. Yep, Ben, you will see that because St. Augustine can tolerate lower light applications than Bermuda grass can. I was watching a long college video talking about micronutrients. When we do soil tests, it typically always focuses on NPK. What are your thoughts on a test for all essential micronutrients? Yeah, I would never just pull a test for NPK. So this is typically what I'm looking for is I'm looking for P levels, I'm looking for K levels, I'm looking for all the micro levels, but mainly magnesium and calcium are going to be two of the big ones. I want to see pH, and I want to see organic matter, and I want to see CECs. So with that picture, that is about everything in that soil that I could see. So there you go. The Green Doctor of Hawaii, Rayita. Yep, we'll get in touch with him. Enjoy the show. Guys, you hang out here on YouTube. Hey, I appreciate that 3 lines. I really do. I really do. Don't do it. The dirt might have glyphosate-resistant Dallas grass seeds. Here's the interesting thing, Telly Coleman. Gravy Lookout does not have Dallas grass up in North Dakota. He has no idea. If I shipped him a big plant of Dallas grass, he would have no idea what it is. All right, everyone, we are coming up on an hour. Going to take a few more questions I hope it doesn't have zebra patch, Rhizoctonia. I would send you some of my dirt if I could chisel a chunk off the top. Just take it off and send it to me. I'm not worried about it, Jeremy. Mail it over. I'll look at it. I'll pan it for gold. I'll do all kinds of stuff with it. Try to tell the wife I could just put an easy up tent in the yard for a year or so to shade out the Bermuda, give the St. Aug a chance to go. Didn't appreciate that. Head still. When should I stop watering my grass? You should stop watering your grass when you get rain. There's not really an answer for this. Even as your grass goes into a dormant period, watering is still something you should consider because you can completely desiccate a lawn, completely dry out the soil surface, and then still run into issues because of that. UMass Extension claims there are no reliable tests for N because of volatility and ability to move through the soil. Barry Kavanaugh, yeah, that's what University of Mass does, but you can also test for nitrate levels in the soil, and nitrates are going to be basically free in. So, you talk about UMass, that they'll tell you that, but if you're like University of Nebraska or Kansas, they'll test for N, no problem. So, yeah, there you go. That you'll get 2 different answers from 2 different universities there. Matt, how much topsoil can be scalped away from a Bermuda grass yard in order to level it out and still have it bounce back in the spring? Man, I don't know. That is a really if you're scalping away soil from the Bermuda grass, you're scalping away the grass. So don't do that. If you want to level it, use sand, and you can bury it in sand and it'll bounce back well. But don't try and scalp topsoil away from the soil surface to try and level it. If that makes sense, that just won't happen. Robert Stroud, yes, it will have it. Hey, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear. Lots of leaves falling out. Is it okay to mulch it all? Yes, mulch it until it begins leaving piles when you cut it. When you're leaving piles when you cut it, then bag it. Oh, look, Gravy looked out, helped out. Okay, everyone, I'm going to call it. Everybody have a fantastic evening. If you haven't, hop on over. Hey, hop on over to Facebook and give us a like on the Facebook page. Just show some love over there. We're trying to manipulate some algorithms here. So do that for me, and I will be forever grateful, sir. All right, everyone. I appreciate you tuning in. Y'all have look at this. Phrase mowing. Look at this, John Ware. Phrase mowing. Now that is something. Now, John, you can't use phrase mowing for leveling. Basically, what phrase mowing is that it's kind of like verticutting, but you are taking it down to the absolute most nitty gritty, where you're only leaving the subsurface root system in the ground, but you're cutting it up into tons and tons of pieces. It comes back with a vengeance, but you're not really removing a lot of soil. That's really interesting you brought that up. In fact, they're talking about phrase mowing being a control factor for Poa annua. All right, everyone, I got to run. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.